Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to make pop-out inserts for your cards. Now on the screen you can see are three shapes that I've designed. The first insert here is a heart made using the basic shapes. The daisy flower is a shape I made by welding shapes together. I have a video on YouTube and on my blog that shows you how to make flowers like this. I did it a few weeks ago. And then this third example is with a word. Now there are a few things that you have to bear in mind really when you're doing this. And basically that's the only thing that holds your word or your shape together in your insert are these side sections here. So on the heart there's quite a deep section there holding this bit into the rest of the card or paper. On the daisy you can see that there are only these tiny little bits, so that was quite a flimsy pop out. And then again on the words we've got a nice long section here on the L, and then we've got three separate sections here holding it together on the E. So you have to choose your basic design carefully because you may not get the result that you're expecting. So I'm going to close this down and jump straight in. Obviously you can resize your projects as you like. I'm not going to be dealing with specific sizes here. I'm just going to give you the functions that you need from within the Canvas software to help you create these, and then you can play around with them yourselves. And you do have to follow the steps as I show you in this video to get the best result. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to choose a shape from the basic shapes, but you could have a shape already in your Canvas library that you want to use to try out this technique, but for now I'm just going to stick with the basic shapes. So I've already done the heart. I'm going to choose this hexagon, I think it is, six-sided. No, it's an eight-sided, isn't it? So is that octagon, I think? Anyway, so that's as it comes on as the default size, just under 4 inches. I'm going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to go up here and choose this square. Now, I'm going to put the square on top of my shape. It doesn't have to be specifically lined up because we'll line that up in a minute. But basically what you've got to do is, if I click on this box, you've got to drag the sides in so that you get an overlap here of your shape. Because, I'll just zoom in and show you. This here and this here are the bits that are going to hold this shape to the rest of your insert when you make a card. So you've got to have that overlap there. Then if you drag this one up and leave a space and drag this one down and leave a space, I would just say, I forgot to say at the beginning, I saw this idea on an episode of Scrapbook Soup recently, and Julie Faith Ann Bolzer was showing how she'd printed designs and then scanned them through the ScanNCut machine and cut them out. And in that episode she said that the most important thing of doing this technique was that you had the two opposite sides touching and that you had a space at the top and the bottom. Now I suppose all the examples that I've done are all done in landscape mode, but I suppose there's no reason whatsoever why, if you wanted to make a portrait shape fold, you could weld the top and the bottom and leave the sides not overlapped. But in this particular instance we'll plod on with how we've got it here. Just going to zoom back out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag an imaginary box around both and I'm going to align them centrally so that we've got an even gap at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to go to Edit, Align, Center, and then I'm going to go to Edit, Align, Middle. And that puts these two shapes now centrally and in the middle with each other. Now, one of the most important things I've found out that you have to do is you have to make sure that you get the order of these shapes, no matter what they are, in a particular order. So your rectangle or your square, whatever it is, has to go to the back. So first of all, select that and right click and click send to back, and then just click off on the page somewhere to deselect, and then click on the shape and make sure you've got the shape. You can see the blue circles are only around the shape, not around the box. And while that's selected, right click and click bring to front. So you should now have the rectangle at the back and the shape on the front. Then you drag an imaginary box around everything to select everything that you've got on your page here, in my case the two shapes, and you go to this icon here, which is this icon here, the third one along, remove overlap, and you click that. And it doesn't look as though a lot's happened, but what you want to do, you want to hover over the frame and drag the frame out of the way. And if I click off, basically now that is part of your pop-up, and these two gaps here where there's nothing are the sections that will hold that shape into the rest of the insert. Now I'm just going to move that out of the way, don't particularly need it, but we'll keep it there. So that's, as I say, your basic shape. Now we need to draw an insert for this to sit in. So I'm just choosing a square from the patterns, going to drag it out roughly to be about 10 inches. As I say, it doesn't have to be exact at this point, and I'm going to bring it down to be about 5. So if this was a card I was making, this insert would be approximately for a 5x5 card. I'm going to bring that in, going to drag a box around both, and I'm going to go to edit, align, center, and edit, align, middle. And that, to all intents and purposes, is your insert. But if you save this now within Canvas, when you bring this into your ScanNCut machine, these will still be two separate objects, as you can see, because there's a blue dotted box around that and around that. And obviously then if you want to try and resize that to make that for a smaller card at some point in the future, or a bigger card, you would have to select it all while it's in your ScanNCut machine. You'd have to unify it to make it all one size before you could start to amend its size. So the easiest way I've found to deal with this is basically drag an imaginary box around everything, and then this time, whereas before when you just had your shape and your square you did remove overlap, this time you're going to hit the second icon, which is divide. So if I hit divide, again it doesn't look as though a lot has happened, but if you come over and hover over the outside frame and click and drag, you will see that you've effectively got the same as this but without the frame. But if I click on this and fill this with colour, you will see it fills, and that is your insert, and that's exactly how it would cut out. So if you loaded a piece of paper or card into your ScanNCut machine and cut this, this is exactly what you'd get. It would cut along the outside of the box, and then it would cut this out, and it would cut this out and leave that and that all tied together. If I just drag a box around this again, in fact I'll group those because they've come ungrouped because we divided them. If I group them and then drag this out again as it was before, like a card, just move this out of the way and I'll just align them. Okay, now if I try to fill these with colour, you can see nothing happens because they're both selected. If I choose the box, I can fill the box with colour, but then the hexagon disappears. There's the hexagon in the middle. So that would be how that would come into Canvas in two separate bits. So if I get rid of that because it's not needed, this is all one section. And when you save this now and then download it into Canvas, this is exactly how this will come into your ScanNCut machine in one piece. So you will be instantly able to resize it, make it bigger, smaller, as you like. So that's why it's important that you follow the steps of the tutorial and do exactly what I show you. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to delete those and we're going to do the same thing, but this time with a word. So we're going to choose text. Again, you want a font that's fairly bold because obviously if you try to cut things like this one out, they're quite flimsy for folding. So I'm going to choose this font. I'm going to double click on the word so I get the flashing cursor, and with my back arrow on my keyboard I'm going to delete those letters. I'm going to hold down my shift key or put my capital locks on my machine and type the word love. Now these are all one word, so again this is no good, they've got to be welded first. So select your word, right click and hit divide. And now these are separate letters. So I'm not going to move them, I'm just going to use the arrows on my keyboard so that they all stay lined up. So while the O's selected, using the arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to scoot this one over so it overlaps the L, and I'm going to select the V and bring that one over until it overlaps the O, and then again with the E until it overlaps the V. And once I've got them overlapped, that'll be fine. I'm going to drag an imaginary box around them and I'm going to hit weld this time. So these are now one shape like we had with our hexagon. So if you're doing letters, you need to weld them. You don't necessarily have to be welded in a straight line. You can rotate each letter, but as long as you've got a weld. And the bits that are going to attach to the insert are going to be these three sections here of the E and this section of the L. So I'm going to go back to the basic shapes and grab myself a box. I'm going to bring it over so it overlaps the L there, and I'm going to drag this one in so it overlaps the E, and I don't need quite that much overlap at the top and the bottom. Select everything, go to align, centre and middle, and if you do that, if you get into the habit of doing this align, you know that your word is always going to be in the middle of your insert. So I'm going to click off to deselect, I'm going to click on the frame, right click and send to back, deselect again, click on my words, right click and bring to front so I know I've got my order correct, select everything and go to the third icon, remove overlap. And I've found through playing with words that they act a little bit differently than shapes, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Now this one's not done it, so that just goes to show, doesn't it? But in the past when I've been using words, these top and bottom sections have not been there, but it doesn't matter either way. So I'm going to click on the frame and drag it out of the way, drag the word out of the way because I don't need it. Go over here, click my shape, drag it out roughly, centre them, align, edit, align, centre and middle. And while they're both selected, go to the second icon, which is divide. And again, if you didn't do this next step, you would be able to save this and you would be able to cut it. But when you bring this into your ScanNCut machine, these are separate sections. And if you just accidentally touch the screen and move the frame from the words while on your ScanNCut machine, they won't line up evenly. And when you come to make your fold, you'll wonder why your insert doesn't fold correctly. So you need to follow this next step and then everything will come in one piece. So select everything and you need to go to the second icon, which is divide. Then again, hover over the outside of the frame and left click and drag it down. And then this one you can delete, and this one is your insert, and if you fill it with colour you'll see it fills. Okay, and that's a way to test that you've got exactly what you're expecting to cut. If it fills with colour, you know that this will be your insert. So where the white space is at the top and the bottom, if this was a blue insert and you were putting it inside a white card, these spaces here would show up as white, and everything that's in black on my screen would be your insert in blue, and I'll just fill it with blue so you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so if you cut that from card or paper in blue and put that inside a white card, that's exactly how it would look when you opened up the card. You'd have your card out here and you'd see the white background. And then obviously all as you do, and in fact we'll get rid of that, all as you do then is give it a name, Pop Out Love, save it into Canvas, it tells you when it's saved, and then download, right click on the title, choose download link file as. I generally put mine on my desktop first so I know where they are. I've chosen desktop here, you can see that's the name I gave it, and it's got the FCM format, and save, and that will now save onto my desktop. I can insert my USB stick into my computer and drag it onto that, and then take the USB stick to the ScanNCut and cut it. So I hope you found that helpful. As I say, I'm only giving you the basic functions. You can play around with other letters and shapes, but if you follow the steps that I've told you and make sure that you align everything as I've told you, you should get these results all the time. So please like, share and subscribe, and leave me any comments or questions you have in the comment box, or message me through YouTube or my blog. Thank you.